This is the Prime Edition. A warm welcome. My name is Yambo. On the sign language tonight is Lancer Odingo. As the country awaits the presentation of the 2026-2027 national budget in Parliament tomorrow, attention is turning to a key sector of the economy and their expectations from the National Treasury. One of those sectors is the aviation, a critical driver of trade, tourism, investment, and regional connectivity. Yet the industry continues to grapple with rising operational costs, pressure on airport infrastructure, global geopolitical uncertainties, and the challenge of making air travel more affordable for Kenyans. Later in this bulletin, we shall examine the state of Kenya's aviation sector, and joining us for that discussion will be George Odwor, the head of scheduled services at Fly 748. Let's now look at the highlights. Day of numbers. National Treasury to unveil Kenya's most ambitious budget yet on Thursday.
But from next academic year, the terms will be rationalized as part of the reforms that we are doing.
Diffusing the rising wave of student unrest. Ministry of Education to review the school calendar.
The applicant shall undertake the burial arrangements pending the final determination of the suit.
Blow to Rachel Mudhoni Wandeto's partner. Peter Jaramba petition to bury the gospel singer rejected by court. The Prime Edition begins right now, where the school calendar midterm breaks are set to be harmonized starting next year in a policy shift as the Minister of Education moves to diffuse a rising wave of student unrest across the country. Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogambo says he will set up a multi-sectoral team to investigate the root cause of the chaos and find lasting solutions to recurring problems. This comes as the ministry maintains the term's midterm break will proceed as scheduled from June the 24th to the 28th. Joseph Okungu opens our bulletin tonight.
The government has moved to calm anxiety among parents and learners following weeks of unrest in secondary schools that have left a trail of destruction and loss of life. Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogambo on Wednesday said while incidents of unrest have been reported in 204 boarding secondary schools, the situation remains under control in a majority of learning institutions across the country.
We have so far received reports of unrest affecting 204 senior schools across the country, and of those 204, 59 have since returned to schools and resumed their studies, with more continuing to return.
He said preliminary assessment by the ministry points to a combination of factors behind the unrest, including examination pressure, learner anxiety, poor boarding conditions, drug and substance abuse, leadership challenges, peer influence, and copycat behavior.
So that's why we're saying let's have a platform where we can receive all these issues and address specific strategies to these challenges, including the issues of infrastructure.
Further, the CS said they will re-examine the school term breaks starting next year.
So we're now going to rationalize that and probably have 12 weeks across the board. We are working on that, but from next academic year, the terms will be rationalized as part of the reforms that we are doing to engage, to ensure that our students do not get exhausted when they are in school.
The CS has also confirmed that the second term mid-break will proceed as planned from June 24th to June 28th, and there is no blanket directive allowing learners to leave school.
But the directive we are giving is that do not use what is happening as an opportunity to send students home where there is no situation or there is no unrest or there is no indication or there is no tension.
Joseph Wahungu for Prime Edition.
Let's now move over to Finland, where President William Ruto and Finland President Alexander Stubb have witnessed the signing of 3 memoranda of understanding that will see the two countries collaborate in education, digitalization, innovation, and environmental cooperation. Speaking at a joint press briefing in Helsinki, Ruto noted the agreements reflect the growing depth and practical relations between Kenya and Finland.
President William Ruto and First Lady Mama Rachel Ruto arrived at Helsinki, Finland. A 2-day state visit that has already seen President William Ruto and his counterpart Alexander Stubb sign 3 memoranda of understanding.
Covering education, digitalization and innovation, and environmental cooperation. These agreements reflect the growing depth and practical orientation of relationship between our two countries.
Kenya is an active and influential player in promoting stability and economic development, both regionally and globally. Kenya is very much a middle power, a voice that needs to be heard around the globe.
Speaking at a joint press briefing, Ruto reaffirmed the shared commitment to reforming multilateral institutions to make them more representative, effective, and responsive to the aspirations of the global South.
Kenya will continue to draw valuable lessons from Finland's globally recognized education system as we advance our competence-based education and training.
We both work to bring the fight against climate change more strongly to the global agenda.
Ruto emphasized that Africa must be recognized not merely as a beneficiary of global initiatives, but as an equal partner in shaping solutions to global challenges.
We reiterate the need for a more representative and equitable Security Council, including fair representation for Africa in both permanent and non-permanent categories of membership. I reaffirmed Kenya's long-standing position that dialogue and diplomacy remains the most viable pathway towards a just and lasting peace between Russia and Ukraine.
In addition, the two agreed to deepen cooperation in healthcare, including universal health coverage, maternal, child and mental health, medical research, and the local manufacture of essential medical supplies and vaccines. Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
Back home, a section of members of National Assembly has confessed that they indulge in bhang, an indication of how drug abuse has permeated the Kenyan society. In a debate on Wednesday afternoon, a group of legislators confessed to smoking bhang strictly for medicinal purposes, saying it was time the nation legalized the narcotic. The MPs were reacting to a statement sought by West Mugirango member of the National Assembly, Stephen Mogaka, on how narcotics are being transported from neighboring countries into the country and sometimes not nabbed by security agents. A section of MPs warned that legalizing the substance would invite chaos, pointing out that it is currently being used in the full glare of the public.
I was recommended for surgery in India. And I said, the doctor told me, no, you're too young for a back surgery. And Mr. Speaker, for a whole year, I got bhang. Every evening at 10 p.m., I would boil it. I would boil it and take it the way you take your tea, the way you do the Chinese tea. I did this for a whole year, Mr. Speaker, and I got better. The only time I get my back is around this time in Nairobi when it gets cold, June and July. And I go back home and again pick the fresh leaves. And so I don't believe, Mr. Speaker, that keeping saying that bhang is illegal, bhang is bad. They have been impounding bhang since 1970.
You cannot tell any Nairobian when you're in a rally, they have now started, they are smoking in front of you, the police are there. We just have to think through and ask ourselves, how do you make it in a manner that will ensure that now it becomes legal, yes, but that legal must have its own consequences.
David is a very good legislator, a seasoned legislator. I would really love to debate a proposal on a law or a bill he has brought to make bang legal. And this House can change that law. And I would like to challenge him. He is a good legislator. He is a good lawyer. He is a good draftsman. Draft a bill.
It's legal in South Africa. You can grow it, and they're making a lot of money, but it's also controlled. So you need to have good structures to control it. So for me, I believe that if somebody was to say that I never ever took a joint or I never smoked a joint, it might be miraculous, all right? Because I think as you grow up...
What do you mean it's miraculous? I've never done it.
The thing is...
Don't judge the country by your standards.
No.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I'm a bad girl. Mr. Speaker, I'm a bad girl. But you can't believe I've never even touched cigarette, never touched alcohol, never touched anything in that category. Only church wine. That's the only one I've tried. So is she in order in misleading people? Mr. Speaker, there are some of us who are naturally high. We don't need njaga. I was born naturally high.
Taweza kuendelea kuzungumza kuwa hata debate ikija hapa tuseme bangi iwe. Bangi kama inatumika kama dawa kwa wagonjwa itakuwa ni sawa, lakini haiwezi, maanake watoto wetu wana abuse bangi. Hawaitumii vile inavyostahili. Kama ni dawa iwe dawa, lakini kama ni watoto wetu wanaovuta wachome moshi, hatutaweza kuunga mkono kitu kama hicho.
To matters health now, where public hospitals contracted under the Social Health Authority will face a penalty for failing to dispense drugs to patients who seek medical services in their facilities. Speaking during the flag-off of a nationwide biometric registration for dependents aged 7 to 17 years, Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale said facilities found culpable risk being deducted 38% of their claims or will be reimbursed, or will not be reimbursed for that matter.
Charter has been launched.
The Ministry of Health on Wednesday flagged off a nationwide biometric registration for children aged 7 to 17 years in a bid to strengthen beneficiary identification, eliminate duplicate registration, enhance accessibility of children's medical history, and reduce waiting time.
These initiatives marks a decisive step toward a fully integrated national health identification ecosystem, building directly upon our successful audit biometric rollout. To ensure this infrastructure is seamless, the government has already distributed approximately, through DHA, over 8,067 biometric scanners across all public health facilities.
Why 7 to 17? It's because of two reasons. Number one, because the law that we are using only allows us to collect biometric for 7 to 17. Two, scientifically, the biometrics will mature after some age. So the earlier ages, the biometrics have not yet matured.
The ministry also adopted the revised Public Officers Medical Fund tariffs for implementation, relieving public workers of out-of-pocket payments. It was in this forum that the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Aden Duale, stressed that the Social Health Authority will take action against facilities that fail to dispense drugs to patients during hospital visits.
Coming the 14th of June, if Mercy comes to your facility, she has diarrhea, she's come to reroute her, she has been managed, a doctor has seen her. She has a prescription for ORS. And Waziri Silantoi, rerouter does not dispense ORS. I will make a deduction of close to 38% of your claim.
He maintained that no Ebola case has been reported in the country after 69 samples that were taken tested negative.
About 12 of our very high-risk counties already they have been mapped out. We are building quarantine isolation centers. People coming from the areas that we feel are close to the epicenter, those planes are being taken to a different area within the airports.
23 Ebola quarantine facilities and isolation centers are being set up at Kenyatta National Hospital, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, among others. Kasichana Masha, Prime Edition.
Well, and that story by Kasichana Masha brings us to a first commercial break on the Prime Edition. A lot more still lined up for you, including that discussion on Kenya's state of aviation and the challenges therein. Stay with us.
The wait is over. KBC Iko Huduma Center. Starting with Nairobi, kupata huduma za KBC imekuwa rahisi. From digital guidance and signet services to booking of commercial adverts and documentaries. Visit our dedicated desks at Huduma Center GPO, Times Square, Makadara, Kibera, or Eastleigh. Tunakungoja hapo. Whether it's a casual announcement or a specialized media solution for your business, we are here to serve you. KBC at Huduma Centers, moving closer to you. Your station, your service.
Everything you know is a fragment of a story.
We only see the outer shell of facts and happenings through a time period of change in policies, regimes, traditions, and climates. We explore the moment that shaped our present and build our identity.
Legacies, stories behind iconic figures, landmarks, folktales, and myths, linking the past to the present. Experience a journey through time in the history of our country. Know your history every Friday at 9 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Jana nimepata ripoti ya kwamba kuna watoto wawili wamepotea. Yoyote anaingia atoe jina lake la ID pale na mgonjwa anaenda kumwangalia.
Tuandike kila kitu chini chenye tunahitaji ili tulipe deni ya Shylock.
Unafanya nini huko?
Sisi askari watu ulize maswali tukiingia places. Hiyo tu ndo the only way ya kujitoa kwa hizi mashida na kutoa pia familia yangu.
Ukiongea na Ufambe kuhusu story zangu, ilikuwa ni juu unanijali ama ni juu ulikuwa na feel guilty ya vile wewe na budako mlinifanyia?
Niko safe, nikuwa karibu na wewe. Wachanga zako na wewe, wacha tumwambie.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's go to the corridors of justice, where a magistrate court sitting in Kerugoya has given the nod for gospel singer Rachel Muthoni Wandeto's body to be released to her mother for burial. The ruling puts a cap on a dispute in which her partner, Peter Njaramba, had sought to bury her. Wandeto came to the public limelight following claims she was doused with acid and set on fire in Mwiki, Nairobi, for tattooing an image of the president. Her planned burial was halted pending the outcome of the case. Details of this and more in the Skills of Justice segment.
Wandeto's funeral, which was set for May 28, 2026 in Kirinyaga, was temporarily halted after her partner Peter Njaramba moved to the court to block the burial, seeking to have her buried at his family home in Murang'a County.
Temporary injunction is hereby issued to the respondent, his agents, servants, or anyone acting under his authority from accessing, collecting, removing, or burying the remains of the deceased Rachel Muthoni Wandeto pending determination of the suit.
The order led to confusion among mourners who had gathered at Kerugoya Stadium for the funeral service. And on Wednesday, resident magistrate Harrison Maina giving a verdict in the case ordered her body to be released to her mother, Sarah Njeri, for burial.
Zuma Funeral Home Limited shall release the remains of the deceased to the applicant for the purposes of burial. The applicant shall undertake the burial arrangements pending the final determination of the suit. This being a family matter, each party will bear their own cost.
The court found that Wandeto and Njaramba were not legally married, noting that no dowry had been paid despite the couple having 2 children together.
Upon careful consideration of the material placed before the court. Notably, evidentiary deficiencies become apparent. The respondent has not produced any records of dowry negotiations, nor has any evidence been tendered to demonstrate that dowry was ever paid.
With the court ruling, Wandeto will now be buried at Kabumbu village in Kirinyaga Central in her mother's home. Elsewhere, 3 boys from Kisumu Boys High School have been arraigned at a Kisumu law court for planning to commit arson at the school. The prosecution informed the court that the trio are found with items ready to commit the felony. The court has directed they be remanded at Kodiaga GK prison until Monday when a bail ruling will be delivered.
An expedited pre-bail report on the safety of the accused persons, including details of their abode and the likelihood of being attacked. The matter can be mentioned on Monday for the pre-bail report and a ruling on bond and bail terms.
And a businessman who had been charged in April 2026 for selling unregistered pest control products will be sentenced next week. On Wednesday, Principal Magistrate Paul Mutai was shown the exhibits, says from Stephen Mwangi Gishoi in Nairobi CBD.
I have considered mitigation. I will call for pre-sentencing reports to be availed on the 16th of June next week. I direct that the exhibits be kept under the care of investigating officer, pending further orders to be given by this court.
Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
Budget deficit remains a major concern with less than 24 hours before budget policy statement is presented to the National Assembly. The National Treasury plans to lower the deficit from 4.9 to 4.5% in the 2026-27 budgeting cycle. Treasury is banking on enhanced tax compliance and increased private sector participation through public-private partnerships and targeted spending on key sectors. Trevor Ngendo takes a look at some of the key highlights emerging ahead of the budget reading.
As the National Treasury prepares to read the national budget on Thursday afternoon, Kenyans are bracing for the country's largest ever spending plan. The 2026-2027 fiscal framework, which has been quietly taking shape in parliamentary committees, represents a significant shift in how the government plans to collect revenue and fund development. With total expenditure projected to hit 4.8 trillion shillings, up from 4.3 trillion shillings in the current fiscal year, the National Treasury is betting on improved tax compliance, private partnerships and foreign direct investment to fill the yawning budget hole. Treasury is targeting revenues approximately 3.63 trillion shillings, leaving a deficit of about 1.11 trillion shillings, equivalent to 5.3% of Kenya's gross domestic product. But where will the extra half trillion shillings come from? The Treasury appears to be shifting away from introducing painful new taxes. Instead, the Kenya Revenue Authority has been tasked with broadening the tax base, tightening compliance, closing loopholes, and expanding digital tax administration. A tax amnesty and dispute resolution measures are also on the table. The fiscal space constrained, the Treasury is aggressively turning to public-private partnerships to fund development projects. Education continues to be the highest winner, receiving over 780 billion shillings. Development expenditure is projected at roughly 750 billion shillings. County governments are set to receive close to 496 billion shillings, with additional allocations on top of the equitable share. The deficit financing plan shows continued reliance on domestic borrowing, reflecting Treasury's delicate balancing act between financing development and maintaining fiscal sustainability. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
To Political Watch now, where the United Opposition top figures have faulted the 4.82 trillion budget 2026-2027 said to be tabled in the National Assembly on Thursday. The leaders, including Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper Patriotic Front, Rigathi Gachagua of DCP and Jubilee's Fred Matiang'i, also criticized the Finance Bill 2026-2027 for introducing punitive taxes, including the proposed new charges on mobile money transfers and an increase in taxes charged on rental income. In a statement read by Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka, the leaders decried that the budget fails to address financial shortfalls in various sectors, including education and health. The opposition also faulted the sale of Kenya Pipeline Corporation and the proposed sale of Safaricom, which they say are Kenya's strategic assets.
Between what this regime spends and what it collects is a whopping 1.11 trillion shillings, a fiscal deficit of 5.3% of our entire GDP. The difference of 1.11 trillion is borrowed. And it is borrowed on behalf of a child in Turkana who is 4 years old today, who has never signed a loan agreement, and who has never attended a budget committee hearing. That child will repay this debt with interest.
I want to ask our members of parliament in the National Assembly, those who believe that they serve the people who elected them, to be the forefront in rejecting on the floor the 2026 finance bill. Please be present for a division so that Kenyans can know who voted with them and who voted against them.
Sometimes it's a give and take, and government should be prepared to go to parliament and sometimes listen to the members of parliament, accept to lose here and lose there, reorganize here and reorganize there and readjust so that we can go forward in a manner that is essentially bearable for all of us.
The government has set aside 140 billion shillings to boost the United Nations office in Nairobi's expansion project. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki says that Kenya will host more United Nations agencies, adding that the United Nations global body has separately allocated 44 billion shillings towards the expansion project. While hosting President of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, the DP said Kenya considers it a great privilege for the UN to prove its belief in the country by expanding its offices in Nairobi, thus elevating Kenya to the same level as other headquarters elsewhere in the developed world.
Ongoing $340 million UNON capital expansion project has also been supported by the government of Kenya, so that as you modernize, upgrade, and expand the facilities of UNON, the government of Kenya has invested local resources to a tune of $1.1 billion into matching infrastructure. This significant state investment has fundamentally upgraded the road network, security frameworks, and sustainable utility systems around the Gigiri diplomatic enclave, aligning the campus in Gigiri with global net zero climate goals. Against this backdrop of a highly fragile global security landscape marked by a troubling resurgence of militarization and the erosion of traditional disarmament frameworks, Kenya continues to serve as a vital anchor of regional stability.
Fashion is so much more than what we wear. It's a reflection of our culture, our confidence, our diversity, and at times the season of life that we are in. But as trends evolve, so does fashion.
There's many shifts. I think social media, number one, is a big thing. Because anytime someone has an event and they're like, I need a dress for this and this, I need a designer, I need to buy this, where do you go? Instagram.
Yes.
Or TikTok. Like back in our days, there was none of that.
Yeah. You look at what the Gen Zs are very concentrated or very strong on. Let's say one thing I would say in matters of image, not just clothes, I would say like dreadlocks is not really in our culture, but it is part of our culture. I wouldn't say it's Mombi and type of that kind of culture.
Yeah, you have to dress according to your body shape and what works. Because what I can wear, or like, I love these pants.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, that's the first thing I told Ashley. But I was like, okay, would I wear them? I'm like, okay, then I'd have her tweak a few things for me.
Yes.
Because I understand my body shape, and I know what can work for me.
He was a Requiem general. The pagoda tree has been guarded by his family for generations.
Do you think I'm in the wrong?
At least when you... I can't believe that you stole my map. I'll give you another chance. And you better tell me the truth. Who sent you here? And where is the branch? Before I make you doing the rest of this.
Thank you for staying with us. We continue with the news where Kenya is seeking greater Chinese investment in tea processing and packaging as part of efforts to increase earnings from one of the country's leading export commodities. The move comes amid growing trade ties between Kenya and China and renewed focus on value addition within the agricultural sector.
It is a moment.
Kenya is intensifying efforts to attract Chinese investors into the tea value chain in a bid to increase local processing, create jobs and boost export earnings.
Obviously, China and Africa have lots of things to gain by working together, particularly food and agriculture. As you know, China is the largest food consumers, the largest agricultural product producers, with the rice, cotton, maize, and so on. And here, Africa has such a great potential in producing more food to feed itself, but also has great potential to export.
Speaking during the China-Africa Forum on Agritech and Industrial Cooperation in Nairobi, the Vice President of Agra, Dr. Hamadi Boga, said the country is encouraging Chinese farms to establish tea processing, packaging and manufacturing operations locally rather than relying on the export of bulk tea.
It's an opportunity for us to work together to build resilient food systems, create jobs and prosperity for Africa and China as well. And at AGRA, we have this mandate for the last 20 years to support African countries to deepen the application of technology to agricultural development.
According to the tea board, 4 Chinese companies are already licensed to package and export tea directly from Kenya, while several factories have adapted Chinese processing technologies tailored to the Chinese market.
China's experience shows that agricultural modernization depends on visionary leadership, sustained investment in science and technology, and the cultivation of agricultural talent.
The government is also seeking investment in tea packaging materials and machinery, with officials saying increased local manufacturing could help reduce production costs and strengthen Kenya's position in global tea markets. With Africa seeking to reduce food imports and support agricultural sector, stakeholders meeting in Nairobi are discussing how innovation and technology can boost local food production and unlock new opportunities along the value chain. Reporting for KBC Channel 1, I'm Noel Ongeso.
Thank you so much, Noel Ongeso, for that report. Inadequate teacher preparedness and insufficient infrastructural capacity continue to hinder effective implementation of STEM under the country's competency-based education system. According to the latest research findings by the Center for Mathematics, Science and Technology Education in Africa, Semester, approximately 37.1% of the teachers have expressed dissatisfaction with their preparedness to effectively implement CBE, while a further 17% feel inadequately equipped to support STEM learning in schools. This is despite the growing appetite for STEM among learners, with an estimated 95% expressing interest in the pathway.
Of science, technology, engineering and mathematics learning continues to gain momentum, with the recent findings by the Center for Mathematics, Science and Technology Education in Africa indicating 95.1% of learners are willing to pursue the pathway as the country's transition to competency-based education takes shape.
Over 95% of learners of grade 10 who are doing STEM subjects have indicated they would prefer and have interest to pursue STEM pathway even after senior school.
The findings, however, exposed a worrying gap, and especially among educators, with approximately 37.1% of the teachers expressing dissatisfaction with their preparedness to effectively implement CBE, while a further 17% feel inadequately equipped to support the science, technology, engineering and mathematics learning in schools.
One of the issues they raised is that they have not been capacity built in CBE. So that points fingers to institutions like Semester and other stakeholders who need to be capacity building them so that they can feel well equipped.
Actually, it's all about motivation of teachers and talking to them to understand that it's not about them, it's about the learner. So the earlier they embrace it, the better, because we are seeing the tail end of 844. What is now in force is the CBE. So we'll continue as the ministry to make sure that we retool the teachers to understand what exactly they're supposed to do back in their classes.
It is for this reason that the Center for Mathematics, Science and Technology Education in Africa has rolled out a 3-day training forum for quality assurance and standards officers that aims to strengthen teacher support and enhance the delivery of STEM education.
We are doing very well, but we need to do slightly more. In terms of adequacy of learning resources, as a center, together with the Ministry of Education, we have developed virtual labs that we are going to roll out in the coming days to support junior school teachers to implement STEM subjects, even if they don't have a physical laboratory. They can still be able to leverage on technology through the virtual labs.
Despite the growing appetite for the pathway among learners, education stakeholders, particularly from marginalized areas such as Mandera County, say inadequate infrastructure, limited learning resources and insufficient laboratory facilities threaten to lock millions of learners from the pathway.
The gadgets are very few. The resources, the books are not enough. In all aspects, even man labor, teachers, even there are shortages. When the government intervenes this and put their hand better, it could be better for northerners.
John Kahiro for Prime Edition.
As Kenya pushes for cleaner energy solutions and climate-smart enterprises, innovators and entrepreneurs are stepping forward with homegrown solutions. I beg your pardon, let me take that story for you again. As Kenya pushes for cleaner energy solutions and climate-smart enterprises, innovators and entrepreneurs are stepping forward with homegrown technologies designed to tackle waste, reduce pollution, and create livelihoods. At a Clean Energy Innovation Forum at the Kenya Meteorological Department, stakeholders noted that nearly 70% of Kenyans still rely on biomass fuels for cooking, adding that investing, that is, in local innovations could play a critical role in strengthening climate resilience.
At a Clean Energy Innovation Forum at the Kenya Meteorological Department, local inventor Kelvin Keraide showcased a unique burner that runs on used engine oil, transforming what is often considered waste into a low-cost source of energy.
Unaweza tumia kibiriti ama tissue ukiwakisha ile moto, ile njiko ikishawaka unaweza wakisha mblower. Hiyo mblower inasukuma oxygen kwa combustion chamber na inatoa moto mzuri ambapo unaweza kutumika nyumbani kupika ama kwa industries, na ile njiko lita moja inaenda masaa 8.
The innovation draws inspiration from vehicle engine technology.
Hiyo idea imetokana na compression ya gari, vile gari inafanya kazi. Haina hewa imekompresiwa ndani kama vile gas. Inaweza leta madhara ya explosion.
Loose in nature and very light.
Meanwhile, in Migori County, waste management company We Care Africa is converting agricultural and household waste into valuable green products. Using sugarcane bagasse as its primary feedstock, the company produces biochar for soil improvement, organic fertilizer, and clean burning briquettes and pellets for domestic and industrial use.
When they are put in the gasifier or gasified stoves, the heat is almost double what we get when we burn LPG gas. And it's also very sustainable because we see, like in Migori where we are in a sugar belt. And we have heaps of bagasse in all our sugar factories. It's almost a hazard. So the sustainability is way longer.
Just as Munyoki coordinator at CAK says such innovations demonstrate the potential of green enterprises to drive economic growth while addressing climate and environmental challenges.
There are gaps and some challenges and barriers that hinder the common community members access to these solutions. So we as an organization, we are spearheading this, advocating even for policy formulation and reviews, just for them to be environmental friendly, even to support the green enterprises. We have seen a lot of work, even in waste management, turning waste to energy.
He said nearly 70% of Kenyans still rely on biomass fuel for cooking, adding that investing in local innovations could play a critical role in expanding access to affordable clean energy.
Stakeholders say bridging gaps in the cleaner cooking energy sector is vital for environmental conservation. For Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
We do not have a special society, so it has to start with us.
We still have a large number of people who doesn't know the rights of persons with disability. We still have a large number of people who are not exposed. Parents and guardians, they are still hiding persons with disability.
Nimekuwa na challenge moja tu ya kumpeleka shule. Juu shule yenye ameitwa ni huko Kilimani. Tukimpeleka shule za huku wanakuambia wataki mtoto haoni. Juu ati tukimweka huko kwa class ni kumpotezea wakati.
We want to get rid of those areas and the normal way people look at people with disabilities, the way they charge them.
Ni kweli. Lakini kwa nini? Kwa nini?
Hujaelewa.
Mwenye macho amitazama.
Lakini mimi nakwambia tazama tena.
Kwa sababu nimekuwa kipofu kama popo ama mwenye kipungani kama.
Hujanielewa.
Mbona wamfuatafuata binti yangu kila mahali?
Sio hivyo mama ni.
Wacha kuni mama hapa. Hebu niambie nia yako.
Tumaini. Umenunua ushanga kunihada ama kuniringia?
Mbona uniuliza hivyo?
Welcome back to Prime Edition and to the discussion on the state of aviation in Kenya. I'm now joined by George Odwor, Head of Scheduled Services at Flight 748, to discuss the state of Kenya's aviation industry, the challenges airlines are facing, and what the sector expects from tomorrow's national budget. Thank you so much, George, for coming to the studio.
Thanks so much, Marie, and I'm really excited and happy to join you this evening.
Exactly. Karibu sana, but before we even start the discussion, maybe just tell us a little bit about George, what you do, so that now we can delve into the issues.
Okay, thanks so much. I'm George Odwor, like you have been told. I'm Head of Scheduled Services, Flight 748, and what we have said is that we just relaunched domestic operations from 1st of May, and we are flying from JKA to Mombasa, 2 flights to Mombasa, and 1 flight to Kunda. So my duty as the Head of Scheduled Services is to give the best experience to our passengers, those who are traveling with us, ensure that schedule is very stable, and then at the end of the day, we want to grow the business, because we have just started with the 2 routes, but from the commitment and alignment from my chairman, we will be going into regional routes. This is Nairobi, Mogadishu, Nairobi, Juba, Kigali, Entebbe, and Dar es Salaam. So my duty is to grow the business. We have started with the 2 routes, but as we assess the demand, we will also expand into domestic markets, Kisumu, Malindi, and the rest.
Thank you so much, George, for that brief introduction and what you do and all that. But let's begin by just looking at the state of the aviation sector in the country.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges and opportunities?
I'll start with the opportunities. With the invention of the 47 county governments, I'll say that we have 47 mini governments. What does this mean? It means that the demand for air travel, when you compare it with the last 10 years, it has increased because we have these staff members who are moving from one county to the other. We have the business people who are moving from one country to another. And then, what does it mean? There's a category of Kenyans who can also afford air travel. Because years back, it was very expensive, but with the support from the government, there are incentives that has really supported the airlines. Yes, it's not where we want to be, but the cost of air travel generally has given space to a number of travelers. Even the family, people who wants to go for holidays, they are able to afford. There's a category of Kenyans who are able to afford air travel to the destinations, because it's not about ticket selling. Today's travelers want to be on schedule. He wants to leave Nairobi at 6:30, like the way we do, arrive, do the business, and then come back. So if the air travel is not predictable, it's not stable, then it will not support all these different categories of travelers.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've actually mentioned, that the airfares, can I say, have become a little bit affordable. But we'll be getting to that to really understand whether the common mwananchi can actually afford to travel at any time that they want to. But we'll have that discussion just a little bit later. But let's talk about the budget reading tomorrow.
Okay.
What are some of the expectations the industry has when it comes to the budget?
Okay, thanks so much, Mary. So there's a lot of pressure on the airlines. So to operate an airline, the cost of fuel, that is the largest. And with the current cost, you have seen several airlines charging fuel surcharge because of the cost of fuel. Next is the taxation. The tax regime, the moment you import jet fuel, I know there's a government-to-government deal, but the number of taxes that are imposed on fuel, there are over 6. And then on top of that, we have the 16% VAT. So this one really, for us in aviation, coupled with the cost of the aircraft components and the spare parts, if you impose any taxation on the airport components, then this cost automatically will be passed to the travelers. And this one is coming at a time when we are just driving the numbers. Yes.
And probably comfort also comes in.
Yeah.
But what do you think are some of the tax measures or levies that could actually be reviewed now that, we are going into the budget reading tomorrow? What are some of those levies that you think can be reviewed to make air travel a little bit affordable to a good number of Kenyans?
Yes. With the different categories of tax regimes, we have the railway development levy, the petroleum development levy, and all this. So if these ones can be reduced or completely be removed, then the cost of fuel will be better. Then in terms of the airports, the cost of running an airline is basically in USD. It's not in Kenya shillings. So we import these spare parts, but then if you impose any taxation in these aircraft components, the leasing and the engines and all that. So what we are proposing as airlines is that we better, these components, the tax regime should really be zero rated, so that it gives the incentives to the aviation industry, which is just expanding, it's growing, because you can see from the government's perspective, last year, Kenya had around 2.7 million travelers who came to our country. But if the cost is too much, even locally, people are flying. But if you have a lot of taxation, if you are taxing the aircraft parts and the components to the range of 16%, then whatever we are targeting, because what we want is to generate and encourage so many people who are down there to afford their travel. We can only pass this benefit to the travelers if the cost is reduced. But these incentives, we hope that the minister will be able to listen, because I know he has been engaged by the stakeholders in the aviation industry, and will get incentives. That is our hope as
Okay, so taxation definitely is what is pushing the airfares a little bit higher.
Yes.
And maybe some of those discussions, if you're on the at the table with some of these policymakers, would actually make it easier, you know, for local Kenyans. I mean, for the locals to be able to travel, you know, and use the airlines more, and all that. But let's delve into the issue of the expansion or capacity at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. It's one that the country, or at least the government, has been grappling with in terms of capacity, you know, congestion and all that. I do not know, how is this actually affecting, can I say, passenger experience and even competitiveness, you know, of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport?
Okay, thanks so much, Mary. So I'll start with we have started with the JKA. So the figures that we have from the Ministry of Tourism is that last year we had around 2.7 million travelers. And over the weekend, we are just from the aviation conference. There's a conference in Mombasa where the key speaker, the chief guest, challenged the aviation industry players to move from the comfort zone, because when you compare in the region, Ethiopia and all that, 2.7 million travelers coming into Jomo Kenyatta is far too less. So we have to be ambitious, and it is timely for the government to expand the facility, because from the players, if we can target over 10 million passengers coming into Kenya by 2035. That is, I think this one is not very conservative. These are the numbers that can be achieved. But you can only achieve this if the facility is there. Like the expansion of the runway, that one is very timely. I can also talk about Ukunda. Ukunda, there were some aircrafts that could not be used on that runway because it is very short. It has been increased from 1.1 kilometers to 1.7. So this has allowed us really to use a bigger aircraft like the Q400 that carries 78 passengers. But still, it's not where we want to be, because we want bigger aircrafts to go to destinations like Ukunda and Kakamega and Lodwar. So this one will really open up the aviation space and support. So if you have the infrastructure, then the investors will be able to, this aircraft, the investors or the airline owners will be able to bring in bigger capacity aircrafts. And this one, what does it mean? It means that your turnaround time, the number of people that you are airlifting from point A to point B is not just 12 for the caravans, or 36 for the Dash 8-100, or 78 people for the Q400 aircraft. Yes, you'll be carrying so many people at a go, and this one will be more efficient for everyone.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're just about to wind up, but I think it would be good for me to ask you this question. The Middle East crisis also has an effect on, you know, airline operations and all that.
Yes.
So probably you could just touch a little bit on how that has actually affected Kenyan airlines. You know.
Yes, for the Middle East crisis has directly impacted us. And the cost, you see, the way they structure the costing for fuel, is that there's a term called PLAT. So this one is internationally accepted standard that controls the cost of fuel in liters, and it's the costing structure is in USD dollars per barrel. So if in the wake up of this crisis in the Middle East, the cost has doubled. What does it mean for the airlines? There's a bit of pushback from the market and all that, but then all the airlines have just been forced to really pass the cost. Like Flight 748, we have really tried to really support our passengers. So what you do, you just surcharge. There's some fuel surcharge. That will just support you to continue running the cost, because like I've told you, the cost of fuel generally is very high and very prohibitive. Okay. So even if this solution, even if the Middle East crisis will be resolved, the cost of jet fuel will still take a lot of time because of the security issues. There's no, the freight charges will really take time to stabilize. But we hope that this will be resolved. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, George Oduor, Head of Scheduled Services at Fly 748, speaking to us about the state of aviation in the country and the expectations the industry has in as far as the budget presentation is concerned tomorrow. And I will still hold you to that. We want to travel more by air. Tumechoka na kuenda 12 hours for some of us. So, yes. But all the same, we've understood what you've talked about and some of the challenges that the aviation industry is facing in as far as airfares, taxation, and all that is concerned. And we really hope to have you back to just talk about more about the aviation industry. For now, you'd allow me to take a break, and my colleague, that is Alan Aoko, is on standby. He'll be bringing you up to speed with matters business.
In a world where news is ever-changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible
to
make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Hello there, it is time for business with me, Alan Aoko. Now, Kenya is in talks with the World Bank over a new development policy operation loan program that is expected to go before the Lenders Board for approval soon. Central Bank Governor Dr. Kamau Tuge says discussions on the development policy operation and an emergency financing facility are at an advanced stage, with both funding arrangements expected to be finalized soon to support the budget.
Kenya is in the final stages of securing a $750 million development policy operation loan from the World Bank. The development policy operation is expected to be channeled to institutional reforms, fiscal consolidation, and budget support.
We are actually in the process of discussing with the World Bank, as you know, on the DPO, and we hope that the DPO will go to the board of the World Bank for discussion fairly shortly.
Kenya had also applied for a $600 million emergency loan from the World Bank.
Similarly, there hasn't been any disbursements regarding the emergency financing. That has not started yet, but of course it's an ongoing discussion. But we hope also that will be finalized quite shortly.
Dr. Duge expects inflationary pressures to ease, supported by stable food prices due to favorable weather conditions and a stable shilling.
The surveys, certainly from the agricultural sector survey, suggest that food inflation may decelerate. It's also maybe the case that these hostilities cease very quickly.
Elsewhere, Shelter Afrique Development Bank says it's eyeing the 10 trillion shillings Africa housing market as it transitions to a fully fledged multilateral development bank. Shelter Afrique Development Bank Managing Director Thieno Habib Han says there is a demand for 53 million housing units on the continent, and there is a need to forge strong alliances to mobilize adequate capital. The lender unveiled its new brand identity and logo, reflecting its transition into a multilateral development bank focused on housing and urban development across Africa. The move marks a key stage in the institution's evolution as it expands its role in addressing the continent's housing and infrastructure needs. The new identity was unveiled during the bank's 45th annual general meeting in Rabat, Morocco. Now, Brookside Dairy has paid smallholder farmers 255 million shillings in incentives for meeting milk supply targets on quality and quantity over the last 6 months. Brookside Dairy General Manager for Milk Procurement, Emmanuel Kabaki, says the program is intended to encourage better animal husbandry practices, improved farm sanitation, and higher quality milk production. The processor is conducting farmer training and capacity building initiatives to modernize dairy farming and strengthen the dairy value chain.
It's something that we want to continue, and we want to increase the opportunities for these farmers to access even additional goods and even services through this program. We have continued to support our farmers in terms of fodder establishment. Last year, we gave out super napier cuttings and sweet potato vines to our dairy farmers so that they can establish the same in their farms. And over and above just giving the cuttings, we have trained these farmers on how to properly establish fodder for their cows.
Further afield, the EU has told Meta that it must allow AI chatbots operated by rival firms to use WhatsApp for free. The European Commission said the firm will need to maintain some access as it concluded antitrust investigations into the tech giant's decision to bar access for AI providers other than Meta AI on the messaging platform. Meta has reacted angrily, accusing the Commission of regulatory overreach. It says it will appeal.
The European Union said it began its investigation in December 2025 after Meta banned third-party general-purpose AI assistants from the WhatsApp for Business API. It said that it had appeared to be an abuse of Meta's dominant position in European markets. So as an interim measure, as its investigation continues, it has given Meta 5 working days to reinstate access for third-party general-purpose AI assistants to the WhatsApp for Business API under the same terms and conditions that were in place previously. The Commission said if Meta failed to comply with its interim decision, it could be fined up to 10% of its total turnover. But Meta said the decision opened the door for hugely valuable AI companies to gain access to WhatsApp without paying. The row is now just the latest example of the strained relations between European regulators and US big tech firms. Last year, Meta warned of a worse experience for European users because of EU regulations. Elsewhere, the 12th China-Brazil Financial Subcommittee meeting of the China-Brazil High-Level Coordination and Cooperation Committee was held on Tuesday in Beijing, with both sides aiming to set up collaboration on finance, sustainable agriculture and other key areas. Discussion at the meeting covered a wide range of topics, including the global and bilateral macroeconomic landscape, cooperation on banking, insurance, capital markets, and agriculture financing between China and Brazil. Looking ahead, both countries plan to further deepen cooperation in banking, insurance and securities, and make effective use of the Agricultural Financing Working Group under the subcommittee and promote closer alignment between the financial institutions and market entities. Finally, the U.S. has added several major firms from China, including e-commerce giant Alibaba and electric car maker BYD, to a list of companies said to have ties with the Chinese military. The Department of Defense list aims to alert American organizations to the risks of doing business with Chinese firms, but the inclusion does not mean they are immediately sanctioned. The Chinese embassy in the U.S. said the list was discriminatory and said firms from China have strictly complied with the laws abroad. Alibaba's representatives said separately that there was no basis for their companies to have been listed, The risk was announced in a post in the Federal Register which named some of China's top companies, a move that risks aggravating tensions between Washington and Beijing.
Well, that's where we end it here at Business. My name is Alan Aoko. I only have to hand over now to Marie Yambo to continue with the day's sports. Marie, back to you.
Thank you so much. Alan Aoko there just bringing us up to speed with matters business. Let's look at sports now, where Athletics Kenya, Nairobi region, has selected a team of 24 athletes for the national championships come Commonwealth trials to be staged at the Nyayo National Stadium between the 18th and the 20th of June. The team was selected today during the regional championship held at the Nairobi West Prison Grounds. Among the selected athletes are Faith Cherotich, who won the 5,000 meters in 15 minutes, 53.1 seconds, and Paul Kimani, who emerged victorious in the men's 5,000 meters in 14 minutes, 27.5 seconds. Dina Anyango was also selected after she won the 400 meters. So did Johnson Tenges and Anastasia Chepto, who triumphed in the 1,500 meters, and Mercy Julius, who won the 100 meters.
Nisaini naenda kwa coach wangu Rudi Ngong ndio niende train naye at least tutorial vile itakuwa ndio at least ni compete national ndaka the qualification time ya kwenda kule Commonwealth.
Race haijakuwa mbaya. Naona kuna competitors wanakimbia vizuri. So na nikipata chance ya kukimbia national naona tunaweza weka time nzuri. Jana nilikuwa na workout hapa Nyayo. So leo hapa nilikuwa tunatafuta timu ya kuingia national.
And the national senior men's and women's soccer teams are back in the country from their respective engagements in South Africa and Zambia. Harambee Starlets won a bronze in the Four Nations tournament following a 6-0 mauling of hapless. The Harambee Starlets won a bronze in the Four Nations tournament following a 6-0 mauling of hapless Lesotho during their third-place playoff at Levi Mwanawasa Stadium in Zambia. Faila Adhiambo, Teresa Engesha, Egle Mohwana, and a brace from Catherine Khaemba secured the emphatic win for Kenya after they lost to Zambia 4-1 through post-match penalties in the opening match. Host Zambia were crowned winners after defeating neighbors Zimbabwe 3-0 in the final. The Four Nations tournament accorded head coach, that is Beldin Odemba, an opportunity to gauge her squad as the team gears up for the 2026 Africa Women's Cup of Nations, which is scheduled to begin on the 25th of July to the 16th of August in Morocco. Kenya is pooled in Group A alongside hosts Morocco, Algeria and Senegal. Harambee Stars were also away during the FIFA International Friendly window, where they defeated Lesotho 4-0 in their second match after a 1-1 draw in the first match in Pretoria.
Hii tournament tuko na tournament nyingine kubwa, so tumejiweka ile moral na tujue ni nini yenye iko mbele yetu. Yeah. Motivation tu ni ile tu tournament yenye tunaenda huko mbele ya qualification ile.
Tumelan vitu mingi sana kwa hii tournament ya kuanzia game ya Zambia hadi, so for me naweza sema in the learning process towards AFCON, so I think tumelan vitu fit.
I feel that the team is ready. Of course, 2-3 things to work on. We worked on scoring in our last 2 trainings, and we've seen that it is possible. Tactically, maybe change a thing or two. And if I'm going to speak about the squad, we might see a change of 3 players.
Now, Britam has unveiled 4 professional golfers for the 2026 27 Professional Golfers of Kenya Equator Tour, reaffirming its commitment to growing the sport in Kenya and the region. The players include Kennedy Abuto, Simon Jogu, John Kageri, and Joyce Wanjiru, who joins a small group of female professionals competing in this year's tour. Britam Group Managing Director and CEO Tom Gitogo says the company is focused on raising the standards of professional golf by supporting players as they compile the highest, the PGK Equator Tour serves as a qualifying pathway to the prestigious Magical Kenya Open and will feature 11 tournaments across the country. The third leg set for Limuru Country Club from June the 18th to the 21st. After 2 rounds, Samuel Shege leads the standings with a gross score of 278 ahead of Dismas Indiza and Michael Karanga.
We expect that not only will we see more Kenyans make the cut at the Kenya Open, we will see better performances of those players in the Kenya Open.
Competing with the ladies, those ones are, I just keep them aside because, you know, I'm a top lady golfer in Kenya right now as we're talking, and looking forward to participate in LPGA Sunshine Tour in South Africa.
Now, there will be little time to rest for the national sevens rugby team as they embark on preparations for the upcoming Africa Men's Sevens tournament slated for Mauritius from the 20th to the 21st of June this year. Shujaa jetted into the country yesterday, having finished 11th in the HSBC Sevens World Championship series to miss their ticket back to the top flight tier. All in all, they will focus their energies now on the Africa Men's Sevens, where some of the players will feature in the Moran team that will represent the country in Mauritius. The Morans have already embarked on training ahead of the tournament, which has seen the withdrawal of Uganda due to travel restrictions. They will be replaced by Senegal in Pool B, where they were drawn alongside Madagascar, Ghana and Tunisia. Kenya is placed in Pool C alongside Burkina Faso, Morocco, Zimbabwe, who narrowly defeated them in the third place playoff in the previous edition. Defending champion South Africa lead Pool A, which also features Zambia, Nigeria and Mauritius. That's where we put a cap on the Prime Edition tonight. Thank you so much for your time and for following us all the way from the time we started to the discussions we've had on the state of aviation in the country. And now we wrap it up with sports. My name is Yambo. Of course, Lelsa Odingo was our sign language interpreter tonight. Do have a good night.
Fashion is so much more than what we wear. It's a reflection of our culture, our confidence, our diversity, and at times the season of life that we are in. But as trends evolve, so does fashion.
There's many shifts. I think social media, number one, is a